Hi everyone, welcome back to the channel. Today's video I'm going to be showing you how to prepare sweetmeats for Devi Pujas for Navratri season. I hope you guys enjoy this video, so sit back and relax and enjoy my recipes. Now for my sweet rice, I like to boil my rice with milk versus water. I'm adding 6 cups of whole milk to a hot heavy bottom pot. I'm going to allow this to heat up a little bit, and then I'm going to go ahead and add a cinnamon stick, some cloves, grated nutmeg, and some vanilla essence. I'm going to allow this to continue to heat up and allow those flavors from the spices to get into the milk, and then I will add my rice once it is a little bit hot. My milk is hot enough for my rice. I'm going to go ahead and add 3/4 cups of washed jasmine rice. Yes, I'm not making a lot of sweet rice today, but this amount is just perfect for what I'm going to be making it for. I'm going to go ahead and stir this in and let that rice get nice and mixed in with all of those flavors in the milk. I'm going to continuously stir this so that it doesn't stick at the bottom. This is the rice that I usually use. It's nothing fancy, it's just a great value jasmine rice. Here I'm going to continue to stir like I said before so that the rice does not start to stick at the bottom. I'll show you different stages throughout the video as to how the rice looks as it's boiling, and this doesn't take very long. It takes about an average of, I'd say, 30 minutes for the rice to be completely cooked, and then I will continue to add the rest of my ingredients. This is what my rice is looking like. It's fully cooked and I allow the excess milk to dry down. You do not want to have too much liquid in your sweet rice when you're going to add your evaporated milk, condensed milk, and so forth, because it will take a very long time to continue to dry down. I'm going to go ahead and add 1 tin of evaporated milk, and I'll slowly turn that in so that it does not break up my rice grains too much. After this, I will add more nutmeg, more vanilla essence, some cinnamon. I do go in with extra cinnamon. This is optional, but I like to have the extra taste in there. It's nothing too much, just some more flavor in my sweet rice. I'm going to go ahead and stir this in and make sure that I have enough here. All of my ingredients and measurements are listed in the description box below, so feel free to go see it there. To sweeten my sweet rice, I'm going to go in with 1 tin of condensed milk, and I will also add 1/2 cup of sugar. If this is too much sugar for you, you can omit the sugar and just do the condensed milk, or at this point you can give it a taste to see how much more sweetener you would like. For me, I wanted to have more sugar, so that's why I added 1/2 cup more of white sugar. I'm going to stir this in and make sure that all of that condensed milk is fully melted in, and then I will proceed to add my additional sugar here. I'm going to continue to stir this until that is also melted in, and this is where you want to pay attention to your sweet rice. You do not want to walk away from this too far. You want to make sure that you keep stirring it, because as sugar is added to this, it will start to want to burn at the bottom as it is being boiled with milk, right? If you know anything about sweet rice, you should not walk away from it at this point. Now, after adding everything that I needed to put in there, I'm going in with my whisk, and what this does, it helps to break up some of your rice and add or release starch into your milk. It will continue to have a thickening effect. As you can see there, it's starting to thicken up for me, and this is how I like to have it. I'm going to continue to whisk it just for about 5 minutes, and then I will go in with some custard powder diluted in cold water. You never want to use hot water, it will lump up. And I will add it in slowly. This is optional. If you do not want to add custard powder to your sweet rice, you do not have to. I just like to do it because it adds a nice flavor. After my custard powder, I will go in and add 2 tablespoons of milk powder, also optional, but I like to have a nice rich sweet rice because we do not eat this very often, so I make it as rich as it could possibly be, but not too much at the same time. I'm going to go ahead and give everything a good whisk, allowing everything to mix in, and you will see how that custard powder thickens up the sweet rice instantly. At this point, you can lower your heat or take your stove off completely. I took mine off because I did not want any excess heat to thicken this up more than it should be. My sweet rice is done. This is what my finished product is looking like. As you can see, it's nice and thick, and as it cools down, it will get even thicker. I'm going to remove this off of the heat there, and I will allow it to cool down for a little bit, maybe about 5 minutes, and then I will come back and show you how it's starting to get thicken up. This is after 5 minutes of coming off the heat. As you can see, it's starting to get nice and thick. If I allow this to sit here, it will stay just as thick as this. If I put it in the fridge, it will get even thicker. So if you want to have your sweet rice nice and thick like this, follow these steps and you will have the perfect sweet rice. If you want it to be on the runnier side, I suggest do not add the milk powder or the custard powder. If you know anything about sweet rice, as long as you see the edges are looking like that, you know the sweet rice is going to be master. Now this is finished, and I'm going to proceed to make my puri. Now for my puri, here I have 2 cups of all-purpose flour, some extra flour for dusting. I'm going to go ahead and add 2 tablespoons of sugar to my flour and 2 tablespoons of softened ghee. Here I'm going to work this in very well to my flour. If you know anything about puris, you need to make sure that that ghee is worked in very well into the flour in order for it to be evenly distributed when you're going to knead your flour. This is what my flour is looking like as I work it in, and then I'll show you what your texture should be. As you can see, it's very loose, it's very dry. That tells you everything has been worked in really well. I'm going to go in with 3/4 cups of room temperature water. Very important, not cold, not hot. You just want room temperature. I'm going to work this in and bring it together into one solid dough, and then I will continue to knead this until it's smooth and it springs back with the touch of our finger. When making puri, you want to make sure that your dough is very nice and soft, just like it is there. That is that ghee taking effect there. If you mix your dough very stiff or very hard, you will have a very dry and stiff puri. I'm going to go ahead and wash my hands so that when I'm going to knead this, it doesn't stick to my fingers or the palm of my hands. I'm going to turn this over onto a clean surface with a little bit of flour for dusting, and then I will continue to knead this until it's smooth, and we will do a finger test, and you shall see that the glutens have been developed enough, and that means your dough has been kneaded to where it should be. After kneading for 5 minutes, as you guys saw, I did my finger test. If you've been with me long enough on this channel, you know how I test my dough to see if it's been kneaded long enough. I'm going to go ahead and divide this up into 15 equal pieces. You can get 15 to 18 puris from this recipe, depending on the size that you want to have yours. Mine is not too big, it's not too small, it's somewhere in between, but if you want to have smaller ones, you can get 18 pieces out of this from 2 cups of flour. To prepare my puri loaves, this is what I like to do. I like to flatten it out and create a nice, even and round dough ball. I find that when I do this, the puri maintains its moisture from the ghee and it stays nice and soft. Some persons like to just flatten it out and then roll their puris out. That is fine too, but this is just how I like to make mine to ensure that I have a nice and soft puri. Now I'm going to go ahead and continue to roll this out and make all of my dough balls, and then we're going to roll out our puris and start frying. Another little trick that I like to do after my loaves are done, I like to damp a tissue paper and cover my flour or my dough balls, because what happens, my air is very dry where I am and it's going to dry out the top of my puris. And the last thing that I want, like I would have said before, I want to keep as much moisture as I can. Here I'm just flouring my rolling pin and my surface. I do not want to use too much flour to alter the texture of my puri, just enough so that when I'm going to roll them out, it does not stick. I'm flattening it there with the tips of my fingers, and I'm going to go ahead and roll this out almost paper thin. You will see when I'm done, those red circles on my mat will start showing through on the puri of itself. That is how I personally know that I have the right thinness for my puris. If you guys are rolling it out on anything else, you will see as long as you roll it out thin enough, those prints will start to show through. As my puris are done rolling, here I have a sheet of parchment paper on my countertop. I'm going to place them in pairs. Usually you fry puris in pairs because they're so thin. If you fry them single, they might get overcooked and get hard. Here I have my ghee that I'm going to place inside of a hot pot. I'm using the Krishna ghee. This is what I always use, and I get this on Liberty Avenue. You can use any cow ghee of your choice. This is just what I like to do. I'm going to allow this to warm up and get medium hot, and I'll continue to roll my puris out. Here I have everything finished in pairs, and my last set is 3 because of course I have 15 puris, right? I'm going to go ahead and place my first pair in my ghee, which is on medium heat. You do not want this ghee to be screaming hot because you will overcook your puris. As you can see, after a few seconds, the edges of my bottom puri started to get a little bit of bubbles around it. That's an indication that it's very close to flip this. These do not take very long to cook. Within less than, I would say, 30 seconds or so, they are both cooked, because if you over fry this, you will have a hard and dry puri. There I'm going in for my first flip to cook the second puri that was at the top. I'm going to spin this a little bit. This is a little trick that I like to do. It helps to cook the puri faster, and also it does not allow the puri at the top to get dry. As you can see, the ghee is kind of flowing over and keeping it nice and moist. And pretty soon I'm going to go ahead and remove this and have that excess ghee drain off as much as I can. At the side of me, I have 2 plates. One for placing my puri down as soon as it comes out of the ghee, and I'm going to tap it with a tissue. And then the one ahead of me is to place the puri after tapping it. This is a process that goes very quickly if you have someone to help you, but since I'm only making 15 puris today, I could have managed this amount by myself. Usually when I make this for my puja, I have hubby helping me with tapping off the excess ghee, and he places that right at the top there just like I am. And I would usually do the placing in the ghee and frying, and he helps me out with the second part. Now I'm going to go ahead and continue to repeat these steps until all of my pears are done frying, and then I will show you what everything looks like after everything is finished frying. ahead and add 1 cup of all-purpose flour through my sift. I like to do this because it helps to prevent lumps in the lapsi. Anything that you can do to prevent lumps, I suggest that you do this if you have never made this as yet, because this can go very wrong very quickly. I'm going to go ahead with a whisk and just cook this flour for about 10 minutes to get out any type of raw taste. This is not necessary, but I find that it gives a better flavor to the lapsi every time I make it. I'm going to go ahead, and this is what my flour is looking like. It's been on the heat for 10 minutes and it's nice and loose and thin. I'm going to remove this from the heat, and I'm going to pour it into a nice clean bowl and allow it to come down to room temperature and be nice and cool so that I can add the rest of my spices. After about 15 minutes, my flour is cooled to the touch. I'm going to go ahead and add my spices. Today I'm using some cardamom powder or eliche powder, ground cinnamon, ground ginger, sugar, and nutmeg. Any of these spices can be omitted if you don't like them, or you can add everything that I did, or you can also edit the portions that I would have added. I'm going to go ahead and give this a good mix to make everything nice and evenly mixed, and then I'm going to also go ahead and add 3.5 cups of whole milk that is at room temperature. You do not want to add hot milk or cold milk to this because it can cause lumps in your lapsi. I'm going to add my milk in portions so that I don't add too much and it starts lumping up in my mixture. Lapsi is something that gets lumps very easily, and one wrong mistake can ruin the entire thing and you may need to start over. I'm going ahead and give this a very generous mix to make sure that my flour and my sugar and everything is melted in very well into my milk. I have everything nice and mixed in here, and this is the consistency you're looking for. You want to have a nice and watery or runny liquid. This is how lapsi should be made. If it is made too thick, you will end up with probably syrney texture when you're going to put it on the heat. I'm going to go ahead and pour it into my bowl here that has a spout, and I'm going to strain it for the first time. I want to make sure that I double strain this so that any lumps or any little particles that may be in there when it goes on the heat, it'll start to lump up. So this is the first time straining it, and then I will restrain it back when it's time to put it on the heat. To cook my lapsi today, I'm using a nice wide non-stick heavy bottom pot, and I'm going to go ahead and add 3 tablespoons of ghee and allow this to melt and heat up. As my ghee is hot, I went ahead and added 3 cloves with the head on, and I'm going to proceed and pour my lapsi in and also strain it for one more time. You will see a few more lumps will come up because this strainer is much finer than the one before. These is what causes trouble in your lapsi. As soon as I pour my lapsi in, I want to make sure that I start stirring with a whisk because the heat will start thickening this up in no time. You will see how fast this starts to get thick. You do not want to step away from the stove at this point. You want to continue to keep stirring this. Within about 5 minutes, my lapsi got thick and I took it off of the heat and continue stirring it. You're going to see that it's going to get nice and thick, and you want to make sure the key is keep stirring. Do not stop stirring. If you need someone to help you with this in the kitchen, I suggest you have them right next to you so that when you stop, they can start immediately. I'm going to go ahead and take it off the heat at this point, and I will show you what it's looking like after continuous stirring for another 5 minutes. This is what my lapsi is looking like after 5 minutes off of the heat. As you can see, it is very smooth. There is no lumps. It has a nice, heavy, runny texture. As this cools down, it will get more thick. So if it looks a little bit runny right now, give it about 15 minutes and you'll see it'll start thickening up, but it will still have a nice runny texture. Lapsi should not be as thick as syrney or parasad. That's the reason why it has its name. It should be running just like that. So I'm going to go ahead and allow this to cool down for a few more minutes, maybe about 10 to 15 minutes, and then I will show you guys how I serve up my lapsi. Here I have my fried puris that I made in the previous clip. I'm going to go ahead and serve up my finished lapsi. For this sweet rice recipe and this lapsi recipe, this is exactly what I use for my Durga pujas or any Devi pujas that I have to do. I always have this recipe at hand because it's the perfect amount of measurements with ingredients to have a tasty sweet rice and lapsi at the end. Of course, you guys know when you're making offerings, you cannot taste these sweets until it is offered to your murtis for your specific pujas. If you guys enjoyed this video, do give it a thumbs up, and I hope everyone has a blessed Navratri this year. If you haven't subscribed as yet, what are you waiting for? Hit that subscribe button. It is absolutely free. Thank you guys for watching. I'll see you on the next one. Bye.